The Sony PS-LX520 turntable from the mid 80s to 1990, I believe, is when this was made. This particular model. This is the original manual, actually, from this model. And this particular model was purchased by the original owner, it looks like, in March of 1989. This was at a time when Sony was the luxury standard for consumer electronics. The one to get TVs, it was the Trinitron, and then here's another Sony. Sony just meant everything was great if you had a Sony. And what's kind of cool about this is you still have the decal. The decal, that original decal, is kind of a little design that everybody knows from Sony in that era that just, it meant, oh, you're buying a nice quality 80s electronic item. That's still on here. And this is the cover that came with this. It's in really amazing condition. You have to look very, very closely to find any kind of grazing, scratches. You're naturally going to get those no matter what, almost just from the atmosphere. But this acrylic plastic cover, which usually they've got cracks somewhere, they've got all kinds of scratches. Sometimes they're gone. You don't even have that cover. It's still here and it's looking beautiful. It's just amazing. If you look inside, you will see that everything else is amazing too. It's got a beautiful black finish on here, almost piano-like, if you will. The mat, the original mat, is here, and underneath it, everything is beautiful. I'll even take off this platter to show you that even underneath it, everything looks so nice. It feels like this was taken out of the box a couple weeks ago and put in somebody's 80s stereo system with the power speakers and the records and the whole setup. What's also cool is you also have the 45, or I should say 7-inch adapter, because sometimes 12-inch records are also at 45 RPM. This is the adapter for your 7-inch records, your singles, the little singles that you saw in jukeboxes that usually have a big cutout in the middle. At some point, sometimes they had just a hole and you didn't need this adapter, but usually you need that. And this is the original one. It says Sony right there. That's the kind of thing that just disappears almost automatically. You know, just almost within the first few months, you lose this, and then you got to buy one of those little aftermarket adapters or somehow figure out how to do it yourself. That is still here, still a part of this. Everything's beautiful. The only thing that isn't here is the original needle. I think this needle is even better. I actually added this needle. The one that came with this was really busted up. This is an Audio-Technica AT90, it looks like. Everything else, and I've got pictures. This is currently online as I make this video in December of 2019. This is currently for sale on eBay, and there's going to be pictures there to show you the insides and the outsides and how beautiful this is. You might be watching this after that's sold. So I'm going to have some pictures also at the end of this video that you can just kind of look at and check out. This is what's considered fully automatic. They call it a linear tracking, fully automatic stereo turntable system. Fully automatic in this case means that once you push play, the system is actually going to figure out whether or not you have a 12-inch record or a 7-inch record. And I put this on the wrong way, and I'm taking it off actually because you have to make sure these little holes, for that to happen, when you put this on, just make sure that these little holes match up. I'm doing that right now. So yeah, we can see that they match up because you can't see the platter through them, the silver platter or the pewter platter. And I actually got that from another YouTuber whose name is UXW Bill online. He has an amazing video on restoring these. It sounds like he's an electrical engineer. He knows a lot about turntables. So I wanted to give him credit for that because I watched his video before doing this and he had a lot of insights to say. I'll even put a little link in the description if you want to check out what he's got going on. He's got a lot of other interesting videos. So anyway, going back to fully automatic, this means that when you put a 45 on using your adapter, a 7-inch on, or you put a 12-inch on, you push play, it's going to know where to go on the platter to start playing. Also, fully automatic means that when it comes to the end of the song, it's going to pick up and move back to the beginning. You do have an option here, another part of being fully automatic, which is really cool. You have an option to put it on repeat. So you can actually have a record just playing all night. That was something people did. It just let it go. That was kind of fancy stuff. You know, today these things sound almost like we're talking about wagon wheels and wagons and stuff like that. It was really, really cool stuff. So that's an option here. That's what makes it fully automatic. The other feature that I mentioned in the beginning was linear tracking. Now, linear tracking versus the Tonearm, which is the curved arm that you see on a lot of turntables, linear tracking meant that this needle is going to move across the vinyl, always the same. So you can imagine, I'm going to grab a pen. Imagine that this is the needle, and it's always going to be head on with the grooves in the vinyl as it tracks across the record. Now with the curved tone arm, you have this moving from here all the way over to here. So sometimes it's in this direction, sometimes it's at a skew. It's always at somewhat of a skew. That's kind of an audiophile detail that was really popular, but that's what you have with linear tracking, and that's simply what it means. This happens to be a direct drive turntable, meaning that there is not a belt inside the platter. There is a little belt inside here to help this linear tracking, and it's working perfectly. That's why I think this turntable was used very little by somebody that it was probably in maybe a area of a house, a luxurious house that just nobody played records that much. Maybe somebody bought it at a time when people were more into CDs, and it just didn't get played a lot because everything is just functioning so perfectly. When I look into all these little areas inside here that usually collect a lot of dust and other types of gunk, there's nothing there. They're just functioning great. So let's move on to playing it. I chose some songs that really, I'm going to play a 12-inch, and then we're going to try out a 45. And I chose songs that are not big hits, not songs that are known very well, because I know that you can sometimes get in trouble for that when you make videos if you play a song that's on the radio or a song that's just in the culture, just be known by a lot of people. So I've chosen some songs that are kind of more on the underground side. So to start things off, you get to see the needle. We're going to push start, and the needle begins to track and sets down into the groove, and we'll start playing. This needle has a nice sound. Okay, and so that's the automatic side of things. You actually have an option here to lift the needle, and if you'd like to, you lift the needle. If you'd like to move a little bit further, advance it a little bit further, you can. Set it back down. Of course, you could also even move it back if you'd like. And right now what we'll do is we'll move it all the way to the end so that you can see the turntable needle. There's the last part of the song. And now the needle is going to slide towards the center label. And it'll pick up. Go back to the beginning. We happen to have repeat engaged. If you can see the little light down here, I'm not sure if you can see that. Repeat is selected, so it should start playing again. And there it is. Working just fine, as it should. Like it's out of the box. Okay, there's the song. All right. So I'm going to lift this up, and then this is something you can do manually as well. If you decide just I'm done with the song, we're leaving, we're going somewhere, there you go, you're done. Now we'll try out the 7-inch. I picked kind of a funny record. The one record I had that I think probably is not in the catalog of songs that YouTube has. It's a song called Tijuana Border by El Claude, kind of a funky song. And I am going to select 45. Now, as I mentioned on these grooves, basically what's happening inside here is there's a little detector that's going to know when This record, the 7-inch record, is not covering these holes, and that means it's going to know where to go to reach the 7-inch. If this 12-inch record were over there, it would be covering both sets of holes of the three holes on here, and then it would go to this side of the platter. So here we go. Oh, and I'm going to select 45. One thing it can't do is detect whether or not it's a 45 or a 33. In general, of course, 7-inch records are 45s. Those are the singles. And in general, so there it works. Found the 45. Oh, a fun song.
You're not looking.
All right.
For a fight.
Okay, so I'll lift that up and then bring it to the end. I'm just going to say generally.
You better move on. Alberta, Canada, Saskatchewan, Alaska, the South Pole, Bremerhaven, Germany.
All right, so there we go. And I don't have repeat now, so it should move all the way back and stop. I don't have repeat selected. So what I was just going to say is generally 45s, or generally 7-inch records, they call them 45s because they're moved at 45 RPM. In Europe a lot, or internationally in the 80s, 12 inches sometimes played at 45 speeds because there was a higher fidelity. It spun more times in a minute, and that just meant you could have a higher quality sound, and those kind of records were used in nightclubs and on radio and so on. So that's what you usually had in Europe. But in the US, generally any 12-inch record was 33 1/3, even the dance singles, and every 7-inch record was 45. But that's not how it always is, so you do have to select this. This is still kind of rudimentary, very mechanical kind of electronics where we're not used to that today. We have apps that select everything for us, but this was at a time when we were nowhere near that. So you will have to decide what speed it is before you put the record down. But that's pretty neat that we still have that original piece. So this is a very beautiful item. And if you're looking for a turntable, you want to get involved in playing vinyl. Of course, there's all the new ones that are made. Those are great. This is actually something from the mid to late 80s, maybe 1990. This particular one was probably made in 1989. And that's the age, in my opinion, when vinyl was at its heyday, at its finishing point, just before CDs had taken over and vinyl became more of a niche type of a category for people to listen to. This is when mainstream people were still going out and buying records at stores like Sears and Montgomery Ward's and all the department stores, and there were record stores everywhere selling vinyl. So it's kind of neat to have something that's from that era. Again, this is in just beautiful, beautiful condition. Everything's working perfectly. Feels like this was, as I've mentioned so many times, feels like this was played very little. So here it is. I do have it on eBay. And it's very nice. And one thing, did I cover? It's direct drive. It's not belt driven. So belts, usually they can break and things can happen to them. I did cover that a little bit, but it's always better to have a direct drive. There's much less wow and flutter. The direct connection of the gears of the turntable are not relying. It's a direct connection. It's not relying on the looseness or the slack of a belt or anything like that. So here it is. It's the Sony PS-LX520 vintage turntable. There you go.